So welcome for a new season of webinars of HEADway webinars. I'm very happy to see you again. It's been a couple of months, but at the same time, it feels like yesterday and also such a long time ago. It's really weird, this summer break. But today we have a great theme that I think will interest a lot of people because we struggle with it usually when we have to work on accreditation. So what's in it for me, and how can you engage your community in your accreditation projects? A quick introduction of HEADway Advisory, which is a consulting firm specialized in higher education institutions. There are four main activities. One is strategy. The other one, people, is headhunting services. Quality and accreditation, that's us. And information and data with newsletter on, news and what's happening in the magic world of higher education. So I'm very happy and honored to welcome Nathalie today. So I will let you introduce yourself and I'll introduce myself very quickly afterwards.
Thank you, Mélanie. Hi, everyone. I'm Nathalie. I am based in Switzerland at EHL Hospitality Business School. Some of you may know it as the École Hôtelière de Lausanne, but we are a management or business school. So we are not your typical hospitality school that you may understand in another context. We're really much a business school in the niche area of hospitality management. I've worked with accreditation, certifications, policy development, and also in academic management for about 15 years. It's funny how accreditation projects always seem to follow me. I don't know why, but I work principally with international accreditations, those that we voluntarily decide to engage in at the school. So it's a different approach when your institution decides to go for something that, it's voluntary and not a regulatory requirement. So we work with the community a lot on engaging in these projects.
Great. So you'll have a lot of experience to share and maybe best practices. And I'm Mélanie Cadart. I'm the Senior Manager of HEADway Quality and Accreditation. And I know a lot of you already. Okay, let's get started. All right, so we have, I'm not sure how many, 3 major points I think it is. I don't have my slides anymore, but that's okay. So the first one is how to involve a diverse faculty, because we know that faculty, and no offense if there are faculty members among you, but sometimes they can be difficult to engage. So what's the main challenge there, and how do you address that issue?
Yeah, I mean, we all know. I mean, we all have our elevator pitch when we talk about accreditations. It's good for the institutions. It helps us with our continuous improvement, with our reputation. We all know that. Within our group of professionals, higher education professionals or accreditation professionals, but it's not always obvious to how faculty can engage, should engage, and then what's in it for them. So at DHL, we're lucky that our accreditation journey kind of parallels the evolution of the school. So it is visually easy for me to say, well, when we became a University of Applied Sciences, well, we got that accreditation. That was part of the plan. And that's the mechanics of it. But really, strictly speaking, what does it mean for them? And what I've found is that when I approach the subject of accreditations, and none of this is revolutionary, but I found it's worked, is that I need to talk about accreditations in terms of continuous improvements and show them that continuous improvements have led to a number of, positive outcomes for their students. So not only do I take information from them and do I take examples and case studies, I also make sure that I feed forward what it is that the information is used, and why do I need to know about their pedagogical innovations? You know, I'm not here to judge the pedagogical innovation. I'm here to showcase it. So it's important to establish this dialogue and make sure that they want to share this information with you. And so sometimes it's also about, you know, finding the right words. We all have like lots of different types of faculty. I mean, at DHL, we have the whole gamut of faculty. We have chefs who came from the industry. We have strategy consultants who come as visiting lecturers. We have professors. We have language lecturers or instructors. And I find that for each of these types of faculty, we exchange slightly differently about accreditation. And I'll give you my best example is, so we have a program for industry professionals. So these tend to be chefs or culinary experts or service experts who work on operations here, who have a desire to teach. And so we have a faculty development program. And I have the honor of going to talk to them about accreditation and curriculum development and all of these fun things. And one day we have a young teacher. He's a chef, Michelin starred. He's worked in his industry for 40 years. And he said, you know, Nathalie, I'm hearing you, but what is accreditation, like from an academic perspective? Like, tell me, and like, tell me what it is. And, you know, we just talked about, we compared it with his activities. So when he prepares a new menu and uses, you know, feedback from his diners, or he prepares a workshop for students and he gets the feedback from the student, or if he's preparing for, I don't know, a Michelin star inspector, you know, how does he integrate that into his work? And so he was sharing with me and said, well, you've just described the process of accreditation. I mean, that's it. It's actually not that complex. I mean, of course, you know, it's a long-term project. It's a lot of work, but sometimes demystifying them, the process of accreditation for them, it is important. And that seemed to work, because now he's more willing to engage, and somebody catches me in the corner and says, you know, I did this. Do you need to know for your accreditation, you know, reports? And so I learned a lot from that, and re-establishing that dialogue is essential for me. I know it's easier said than done, but it does work.
There's a good point made by Jean-François in the conversation, saying that it's always more rewarding to spend time with faculty members who are easier to engage with than to waste it on the most reluctant ones. And it's absolutely true. And I know that it's a message that ACSB also spreads a lot, because you always have your naysayers, people that think that it's rubbish, that it's more work, that it's expensive and completely useless. Obviously, you're not going to change their mind that easily, and but you will have people who are more easily or more understanding, I would say. And yes, you should focus your energy on these people, because then they will spread the word also to among faculty members, because, you know, faculty also like to engage peer to peer. So it's a very good point, François. Merci.
No, that is a really good point. And, you know, if you look at the theory around change management, exactly, you know, you have your core supporters and champions, and that does help. There'll always be what, you know, Cotter calls laggards. There'll always be people that would be on. As long as, for me, they're not obstructive, then I can work with most faculty. The reality is that I also have access to a lot of, you know, information that's written, so course description, things like that. So sometimes I don't always need to, you know, to get the information directly from the faculty. So some of the more qualitative information, I do have to, you know, focus my energy on the positive ones, the ones that want to showcase their either innovation or best practice or success. That's just a reality of life, like you said. Melanie.
Yes, exactly. It's like, why focus your energy on negative people or negative
Mm-hmm.
things, and generally
Yes.
speaking. So, and I'll just bounce back on that just to remind you that if you have questions or comments, feel free to engage in the conversation. And, this is a discussion, really. It's not a lesson. Okay, so, but we were talking about involving faculty, but these are not the only stakeholders in the accreditation process. So how do you go about engaging these very varied, crowd?
Mm-hmm. I mean, when we talk about professional staff or those who support the programs, I think these are the ones that will understand most, the challenges of accreditation and who will share with you. So this, I probably won't talk too much about it, but your instructional designers, I mean, you don't need to convince them. They're in there. But students, for example, at DHL we're lucky to have a really nice system of internal governance. So I often have the opportunity to engage with them, with the student council. It is lucky also that the coordinator of internal governance is actually based in our office. So I have a kind of a direct line. I try not to share too much information kind of generally, like mass emails about accreditations other than success don't tend to work very well. So we will work with the student councils. We ask them to work with their student representatives. They're naturally engaged. We find our students are pretty vocal about things they like and things they don't. But again, it's about that feed forward and what they will see, and because we will share the report with the student leaders, which they can then share. We remove some information about finance and things like that, but generally they see the complete report. They will see that we reflect on their feedback in the report. And that is important. So if we opened a brand new wing of our campus and the students had issues with how we were using the space and they were very vocal about it. There's a whole section of that in the report and how we addressed it and what we did, what they told us, how they were involved. Because in the end, it came out as a point of conversation with the peer reviewers when we had our ACSB visit and other accreditors visit before. So it's going to come out anyway. So we may just as well put it in the report. And because they see that, and one of our values is transparency. So we also able to demonstrate that. They see that we take that seriously. They are more willing to then also share the good points about accreditations and what it helps to do. So just like with faculty, just different channels of communication, because I can't talk to 4,000 students. And now I'm lucky that we only have 4,000 students. But if you have 20,000 at your institution, it's hard. So again, find your select few, if I can, I don't like that word, so I shouldn't have used that, but your champions and your channel of communication, and that will really, for me, that's been very successful.
Yes, I think I kind of jumped ahead. I think it's our third point with all these various stakeholders. Circling back to faculty, there's something very specific to ACSB, but also in the FMD, it takes place. I was thinking about AOL, and I think it's one of the most difficult things to engage faculty about. So do you have best practices? And also I'm asking to all of you people, if you have best practices about how to engage, how to make AOL fun, how do you convince your faculty that it's in their interest and it's not just more work? So Nathalie.
Yeah, it's funny you mention it, and I see Adam is here today, but we had a little group of the Swiss accredited schools, we had a meeting, and this was one of the points. It's like, how do you build an AOL system that is useful, right? I mean, again, and so for it to be useful, you need to engage the faculty. I mean, we involve them in different ways. So sometimes they don't necessarily associate it with AOL, because it's not, our AOL plan is not just for ACSB, it's for other other accreditors, and also for our continuous improvement generally. So they are involved in different ways, not necessarily called AOL, but we'll solicit them for mapping of courses, to particular competencies. We'll ask them to update their UDs and to map them to, particular measures that we use. And then once again, you select the good students and the ones who will be willing to work with you on it. Our AOL committee is a few of our faculty that are particularly analytical and interested. Generally, they're associated with our academic board or examination board, so they have a stake in that AOL plan. What we find at EHL is that we have different ways of measuring educational effectiveness. So in my BOL, we have some regulatory requirement for our campus in Singapore, and these don't always mesh. And that is where faculty find it difficult to know, okay, well, I'm giving you this for that. Why do I have to also give you this for that? And so we're trying to refine and involve them in that. But tell me, what do you think would be the best measure for this competency you say you develop in our students? It's no use to me. Like, I want it to be useful for you. So trying again to have that dialogue. We again have some internal governance that helps. But start with a small group that has expertise as well in that kind of framework.
And I would say that for people, for accreditation professionals who are not faculty, this tends to be more difficult. So that's where you need your champions among the faculty to have that dialogue open, to have faculty understand that it's not just an administrative requirement. Faculty resistance, yes. That's something like that, exactly. But I think and something that I've noticed is when accreditation people are faculty members, it makes the work a little easier because I guess the other faculty members feel that, okay, so if he or she's saying it and she's a faculty member, then okay, it can be done, So it's really important if you're just, and I'm not being mean about this, but if you're just an administrative staff working on accreditations, make sure that you have someone from the faculty on your side with AOL. Involve them very early. But I would say a little piece of advice is also not to try and engage too many faculty members at once when you start working on AOL, because can be daunting, and then you'll just lose them along the way,
Mm-hmm. Something that we found, sorry, Mélanie, to interrupt, is that when there is a change of faculty, or if there is a big review of a course or a program, we're not always part of the early conversations, and then it is difficult to guide the process. So trying to find the person who can at least keep you appraised that things are moving, things are changing, will help as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I'll move to our second point because time is flying. The role of accreditation managers as Chief Success Celebration Officers. That was a nice name. So the challenge, and we've mentioned this before with faculty, is that usually accreditations are seen as compliance-based, and what's the interest? Why do we do this? So how do you address that?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't find the work of, like the compliance, the exact, kind of matching of things particularly enjoyable if I have to do it over and over again. Discovering that we are doing things that are so impactful and that, really will benefit our students or our community, that's what I find super exciting. And so if I'm receiving information, it's for me very important that we celebrate it. And I don't know what I don't know. So tell me, feed me stories. I don't judge it. You do have to establish this kind of culture of trust as well. I have faculty and colleagues who will come and share things that perhaps I didn't need to know, and they know that it's not going to end up in a report in a way that is going to be problematic. So the same way that we keep things very secure, very confidential, we also need to be seen as people who can really present the school and showcase the successes. So we regularly celebrate small wins in a way that is meaningful to everyone. So yes, I mean, I was very happy this spring when we received a CSB accreditation. Yay. At the same time, we were reaccredited by our American accreditor, and things went well in Singapore with our certificator. So that was fantastic. But when we get the Michelin star in the restaurant, we also celebrate. It's not an academic accreditation, but so all the successes for me have to be equally celebrated. And if you can find a platform for that, that's important. So I try every so often to go to faculty welcome session and to thank the community, the faculty and the professional staff in sharing this information, to tell them what the reviewers have found, interesting. So we have sometimes, practices that for us are everyday, right? There's things we do, and the peer reviewers showcase those. We also need to then showcase them. So when we have the opportunity, we will share it in emails. We'll have slides on the screens on campus, and really show that success and accreditations are one thing. It's and that you shouldn't only focus on the negative feedback or the things that we need to improve, but also, what has contributed to the success of accreditation. And these are all the other successes that we build and we bring together.
Yes, and also they don't need to be big successes, and I think it needs to be a culture within the school on several levels. So, and I'm thinking of something very specific here. I know a couple of schools who do not really value their faculty members and their research efforts. So, research, they need to have that output to remain in rankings, in accreditation, requirements and everything. But and it costs money because there are publication bonuses and everything. But it should be celebrated a little bit more, because then it would, I don't know, it would make faculty feel more valued and maybe more willing to share the things that they do. And how hard it can be to get that information from faculty about their either publications. I mean, this one is easy because they honestly need to do it, but I'm thinking also pedagogical innovations, or maybe projects that they're working on with companies, or anything that could be useful for you, but they just do it, on their own because they think that no one cares. So if you show that you care about one thing, maybe they will want to share more and share everything, and that feeds your report, so it's easier. Adam is saying something interesting too, saying that one of his mentors told him a long time ago to go and meet the people that will ask difficult questions and who are not on board with accreditations. This way you know what concerns them and how they feel heard. Yes. Yeah. That is completely true, that you should not ignore. It's easier to focus on people who are positive about accreditations or not negative, but still hear what they have to say, because then, maybe it's in your power to address or make changes that will transform that view.
Yeah. We regularly have information session on upcoming accreditation deadlines. That might be a report, that might be a visit, and at that point we know that not everyone is going to be 100% positive about everything, and I always point out the fact that if they are invited to meet with a peer review panel, and we don't always choose. Often it's going to be our faculty council that chooses who goes. So there's kind of that. We don't just select the cheerleaders, you know, we also select people that are going to critically appraise the institution. But we use that an opportunity to say, well, we hope that meeting with the peer reviewers is not your only channel for raising concerns, because if it is, we have a problem at this institution. You should have multiple channels for raising your concerns, just like you should have multiple channels to celebrate your successes. It shouldn't just be that one big announcement or that one accreditation visit. And we regularly invite people who might be less positive about things happening in the school. The peer reviewers appreciate it. They get a very balanced view, which is more realistic of the situation. And of course, we don't script. I never sit in an accreditation visit meeting. So it gives them confidence as well that they can be heard, as you say, Adam, and that it's going to be constructive. It's going to be useful.
HL has an amazing campus and has amazing food.
Yeah, food can be a federating factor as well.
Well, for those of us who do not have, you know, restaurants, and because there's the other Nathalie who joined from the Institute Life. Okay, so you have like an easier way to convince everyone with a nice meal in a Michelin star restaurant. So yes, makes us want to go there really. Okay, so next and last, use the mission as a rallying instrument for internal stakeholders. Because once again, I mean, we always end up talking about the same thing about accreditations being seen as a compliance effort and not anything else. So you need to ensure that you still have engagement beyond that compliance. So here we're talking about the diversity of stakeholders and how you can address these specific groups.
Yeah. If I may quote an ACSB standard, you know, this is what we do as accreditation professionals, but it says the institution's mission should guide its strategic decisions and actions, ensuring that all faculty understand their contributions to this mission. Now, they don't necessarily need to understand their contribution to the accreditation process itself. However, they should all understand what their contribution to the mission is. Now, at EHL, in the Swiss system, a professor is someone that does research. We also have faculty who do not do research. That's, you know, part of the different types of faculty we have on campus. And it's true that in an ACSB report, we're probably going to spend more time talking about business faculty and those who do research. So that's going to be standard 3, standard 8, and that's going to focus a lot on these faculty. So how do you engage everyone else? And we really use standard 9. I know it's been a standard that's been a little bit problematic. So for those of you who don't have ACSB, it's all about impact. So it's about community engagement, it's about impact of your school. And we really use this to ask everyone, you know, what is your contribution to our missions that is impactful? Our mission is all about impact. It's not quite like some of our neighbors here in Switzerland who have the more impact in their tagline, but for us, our contribution to the industry is our mission, it's our impact. So how do everyone contribute to that, from the students, from the local community? It's important to spell it out. It's as simple as that. It's, what do you believe your contribution to the mission is? That is enough for me to say you're contributing to our accreditation efforts. If you're mission driven, it's half the battle in accreditation, really. So really talking about something that is common to everyone, regardless of the accreditation process, regarding of the rank of the faculty mandate, I've found is very powerful.
Yeah, I agree with that, but not but and so you mentioned students earlier. Do you feel that they know what it's about? Because you talked about several initiatives to kind of get them accustomed to accreditations, but like if we picked any students, do you think that they would be able to talk about accreditations, not one specific accreditation, but like the process of it? Okay, pick one.
Yeah, I don't think all of them certainly would.
Of course.
Or they'd have a different understanding of accreditation. For them, it's like, does it mean my diploma is recognized overseas? Or does it mean that, it's a federal title, or that my credits can be transferred somewhere else, or I can do a master's here, or I can do a master's there. These are the questions these are the topics that are going to come up generally with accreditation. And it's funny, when we got ACSB accredited, we had a stand. So I had a stand. Of course, it had, ACSB branded cookies, because that's what you do when you're at DHL. And a lot of students came and asked, what is this? What does it mean for me? Okay. And we see that we still have a lot of work on that. What I personally prefer to do is to show them what our continuous improvement ecosystem does for them, generally speaking. Elizabeth and I share a similar experience of accreditation and working with our community, and something tangible for them. They might not call it AOL, they might not call it accreditation, but for us, they know they're going to be involved at some point in providing feedback. Why they should answer that one survey every semester, because it's going to take a while for the impact of that survey to really show for them. We've changed our approach a little bit. Now we do focus groups into the semester for quick actions, things they can see, things they can do. And we have even urgent feedback forms for things that are really not working right now that they need to solve, that they can't wait until the end of the semester to tell us about. So communication with students, super important. What you do with that information is crucial, and tell them, and how you tell them about what you did with that information is even more important, because after the 6th semester, many of them do not exactly, it will encourage higher response rates. Otherwise, you see that declining. We all see it as they go through their bachelor or their experience. Fewer and fewer will answer the surveys if they don't see that much is done with it. So we've regularly send email or ask the student council to communicate with the students about improvements that are made, or why decisions were made that maybe will not suit everyone, because that's the other thing. You cannot always take the decision that's the most popular. Discontinuing an elective, discontinuing, this option. Sometimes the decisions are difficult, but telling them why and how their feedback has been important is paramount. If you don't do it, if it's not in that culture of your institution, I strongly suggest that you have a chat with your CEO or your president or your dean, because without that championship at the highest level and building into your organizational culture, it's not going to work.
Gail is also making a good point about communication about EQUIS when trying to find volunteer students to participate in the preparation of the student report, and celebrating after the visit, of course, is also a good way to engage the student community. Well, yes, and also because there you have to, you need that student report, whether for EQUIS or the program accreditation for FMT, but it's something very concrete, but obviously you need to present the purpose of it, not just ask that it's done. Usually they're very happy to engage in that exercise. I've done it with my former students, and I found that even the ones that you would think could be a little negative about some aspects of the school, or program quality, life at the school. They end up having a positive message anyway. So it's always interesting that even when there's something they're not happy about, they manage naturally to talk about the positive aspects of the school, because they understand the purpose of what we're asking them to do. Always think and inform. Yes, exactly. And I think it's also very important, whatever contribution you ask from people, do not just ask, say thank you, do the thing in, a little corner of your office, then you submit your report and then nothing happens afterwards. Or maybe the good news is shared. Okay, we have the accreditation. Thank you, everyone. But you should take the time to thank that person for their contribution, maybe get some feedback. Okay, thank you. I took that, kind of edited it, and this is how it looks now that it's going into the report. And maybe you're allowed or not to have them read their chapter of the report, because I know that some schools don't like to share the whole report with every contributor, depending on the maybe hierarchy level. I don't know. So, and for your students, it works with your alumni, it works with your companies, and also it's a big part of any visit, because same thing, you need people to come talk to the PRT and be present, be positive, but also realistic. That's important. And then it's really important to straight away and not wait until the decision is made. And same thing, I've heard about experiences where people were not thanked right away or not informed about the outcome, because that happens also. And then people just don't want to get involved anymore. It's like, what's the point? Yes, you're going to have your, yeah. Yes, exactly. You're going to have to show improvement. So anyway, you will still need those people. So be friends.
I particularly like accreditation processes or accreditation visits where there are open meetings. So we have an American accreditor and one of the regional accreditors. And part of the agenda of the visit is three open meetings. So you have to demonstrate you've advertised broadly and encouraged people to come and talk to representatives of the PRT. That might be, to talk about good things, but as well as, less positive things. And it's completely open. So we have a sign up. I don't see who goes. I just, we just do it separately. And we have a meeting for faculty, a meeting for students, a meeting for staff. And they can go and talk to the PRT members very openly. We choose a room where, it's kind of it's private. So 3 rooms that are private. And we find that because we strongly encourage and we advertise it very broadly, then the community feels that they have a role to play, and that we want to encourage them to be heard. And that we're not hiding the accreditation process as something secretive where we only have to share the good things, and and we don't self-reflect on things that don't work. And by encouraging this self-reflection process, we also encourage them to self-reflect about some of their activities. So for students, for example, when they have co-curricular activities, we also want them to reflect on the benefit or impact of their activities. We showcase some of them. We want them to share, as much as possible, but accept that some things don't work and can be improved. So if we do it, we want to encourage them to do the same. And I like the idea of these open meetings. Really, they've really helped us also to engage people who would not normally be engaged otherwise.
That's a good idea. And I was thinking back of an example about informing and thanking. Some of you know know Peregrine. I don't know, maybe you use it in your schools to evaluate competencies that you can also use for AOL. Anyway, use that, and it's a test. It's not graded or anything. It's just if you assess a cohort, it's not individual, but still they need to individually take part in the test. So it's more work for them. They don't get anything out of it. But it's like, okay, please do this for us. It's very important, and you will get information. And I remember that when I shared the report back with them about saying, okay, this is how you did as a cohort, and this is how you stand compared to other cohorts in other schools, other parts of the world. And look, in I think it was something like maybe ERS, or yeah, I think that's what it was, something like sustainable development or something. They scored higher, and they were so proud. And I got several emails back, saying, thank you for sharing. That's great. And they were really positive about the whole thing. And they actually offered more help. Like, okay, do we need to do anything else? So yeah, it's really important to inform about the outcomes of what you have people do.
Mm-hmm. I know at DHL we've done several student-led surveys or projects. I mean, we do the PIR, positive impact rating. That's student-led, and we share back with them, where we are, or they share. Actually, I think they share back with us where we are and areas we should focus on. So we're at level 3. So we still have a little bit of work to do. And then they're invited to help us do better. That's the thing, that it's not just that they deliver something, they tell us we should do better. It's like, how do we do it better together? You want more sustainability content in the curriculum? Great. We want to work with you on that. They're able to suggest electives. Many of our elective courses come from student because they come back from internship, they've been in an industry that's cutting edge, and they want to see that as a practice, and they want to share it with their cohorts. So again, their impact on the curriculum and development of pedagogical innovation is in part due to the students. So we have to find ways to involve them in that, and thank them and inform them of that, or inform those who didn't participate in that process that some of their colleagues did, and we believe that it's of benefits to all.
I'm looking back at the slide that I'm sharing, and as far as the institution part is concerned, a lot of us, I would say, use accreditation to push agendas, with management. So sometimes there's the argument of, yeah, we need to do it because accreditations tell us to do it, to do it. So that's one positive aspect, because you can move things along thanks to accreditation and the impact of it. But sometimes it's also important to say, okay, you see this as a big change that's going to be painful, but look, take, or either take a step back or look further down the road of what it means and what it will mean and where it will lead. I'm getting mixed up in my words, but it's also, just to focus on the institutional aspect of it, because we talked about faculty, we talked about students, mentioned staff, but the institutional, the management. I also know several schools where top management is not exactly involved in accreditation processes. They just want the job done, basically. I know some of you know that. On the contrary, I've worked with schools where regular meetings were done with the dean. That's much more rare, I have to say, but honestly, it happens. And I find it great that they are that involved and they show that much support. And honestly, I would love doing a webinar with and for deans, but see, most participants in those Q&A webinars are accreditation professionals, which tells you, and I know that I've mentioned that before, it tells you that to a lot of people, accreditations are just the matter and the business of accreditation professionals. And that message is really hard to get across. So again, if you have good practices of how you get your deans and directors involved in accreditations more than just giving the order of getting that accreditation, please share, because I think it can be useful to a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we are in this luxurious kind of time period where our ACSB accreditation is new. So for us, it's kind of like a new positioning
Honeymoon.
for the school. It's honeymoon. It's going to open up new partnerships. So our dean is our dean and our CEO, actually, because we also have a CEO at the top. And they're both kind of talking about ACSB a lot. So that's great. But I know for some schools where it's like, oh, well, we've had it for 15 years, we need to keep it, but so get the job done is a little bit different. Where I get really upset, and I'm sure lots of you have seen it, is when people use accreditation to make other people do things. And then we end up being the bad people. It's like, oh, but accreditation said that we should do that. So no. Let's take a step back here.
Yes, there's the interpretation.
There is no prescription here. I do not need that number as a target. That is not what accreditation is all about. Accreditation is about why do you want that target to be, that number, and what is it going to achieve us doing? But accreditation did not say. And it's funny because suddenly accreditation becomes a person.
Yes, exactly.
With its feelings and its life of its own. It's like, no. Let's take a step
and its
back.
clause.
So that's right. But I often correct people, and I'll say, people will say, well, for accreditation, do we need to do this? And well, actually, there's no prescription here. Like, what I need to know is you documented the decision. You're going to measure its impact, and you're going to tell me, yes, it should be continued or not, and whether it's going to lead to improvement. That's the extent of my prescription. And so I get really, really upset with colleagues, and I'm like, time out. Let's take a step back. Accreditation is not that.
Stop making stuff up.
Sometimes
yes,
it's like, this is not an audit, like we're talking about accreditation here. These are much more interpretative kind of standards.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's even too much leeway for interpretation, and some people like actually to be told what to do, what ratios to meet, and what process to abide by, and they don't like the liberty of just, okay, be your own, but just tell us how you do things and why, and what's the outcome really. Yeah, it's the interpretation of accreditation processes is different. But what I find working with many different schools is that it's always positive. And for schools that get started in accreditations, no matter if it's national, international, it doesn't matter, is that first they have that effect, like, oh my God, everything, we have to do this. But then, starting to work on their processes, their documents, their data, then they start to realize that, oh, this is actually very structuring. And I think that's what people like the most about accreditation, is how it helps you structure your processes and understand why you do what you do. And I think that's one thing that I love about AOL, actually, is how that continuous improvement and how it feeds the changes in your curriculum, in your programs, because the way you see it, when I work with schools that don't have an AOL system in place, is that they do things, they might measure, but then there's no link between the changes that are made to the curriculum. It's like, oh, we should add this. Okay, but where is this coming from? And if you also can showcase that the changes are made thanks to, and not just out of the blue, thanks to accreditation processes, then I guess it's a win because they think, oh, okay, so accreditation is actually useful. So it's always the positive little things that you need to, yes, to talk more about.
Yeah, something we absolutely try to do. I'm sorry, I don't know why my background suddenly changed. Suddenly I'm in the clouds. We try to not ask 3 times the for data. So that is where our responsibility is as accreditation professionals is what do we need for the deadlines, the reports that we know are coming, because we know they're coming. We're going to tell the faculty they're going to forget, but we know it's coming. And so how can I plan, my requests, because otherwise I'm going to ask the data 3 times in 3 different formats. Colleagues are going to be upset, it's at the last minute. And some things are going to be at the last minute because it's going to be a request from a PRT, they want to see more. But the bulk of it is how do we plan our accreditation projects so that we don't keep going back to the same people and asking them over and over again the data in a slightly different form. So we've done a lot of work to plan internally. We've worked with IT, believe it or not. They're on board to create dashboards. So I have the data that I want, how I want it for all the different accreditations. There's only one person feeding the data, with that data set, and then I can modulate it depending on what I need. And that really helps to let them see that you've also planned and you are mindful of their time and input, and then we can concentrate on the more qualitative aspect, the case studies, the examples, the good practices. That's where I want to spend more time with the faculty, with my colleagues in the data team.
Yes. Anyone has anything to share? Any question? How do you present accreditation to your team, to your faculty, to your students? Do you get any pushback from people? How do you address it? Do you take time to celebrate? You're welcome. Next month, you can mark your calendars. On October 17, I will have the pleasure to welcome Ihsan Zakri from ACSB, and we will focus on Table 3.1, the dreaded Table 3.1.
The 25-page table.
Yes, exactly. Depending on your faculty, it can be that, exactly. So feel free to join. I also have the November, let me get my calendar so that you know if you're interested or not. So next one is ACSB, obviously in English. The November one will be in French. It will be on the subject of disability in higher education. How do we take disability into account in higher education? And in December 12th, we'll also be in English with Abir Sino from AUB, and talking about how international can international accreditations be when you have to be specific to your country. So great topics coming up. I hope to see you next month. And if you have an idea of a theme for a webinar, if you want to be a speaker, feel free to contact me and I will be happy to discuss a theme with you and another topic. So yes. Oh, thank you, Fanny. We already have the link to register for the next one, so feel free to register. Nathalie, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Mélanie.
Thank and inform. So I'm thanking you and I will inform you later of what happens.
Please. Feedback always welcome and appreciated.
Exactly. So thank you all for spending your lunchtime with us again. And yes, thank you for joining. It's very nice and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.